Klarna, in my opinion, is evil. Any debt company on this earth is there so that you can suffer. There are spiritual implications of debt that every single woman must understand. And I have the good pleasure of having been in debt before. And I'm so grateful to the Most High for putting me in that position because, one, it actually enabled me to know how to make serious money on earth. And secondly, it is the stem and root of why I'm able to share the advice I am today. So all things work out for the good of those who love God. This is specifically for my girls, my women who are in debt. It is so important for every single woman to understand that debt has spiritual implications. I was going to say serious implications. It has serious implications and spiritual implications. It is not something of natural order. Money is a spirit. Money isn't actually real. To be honest, it's not real. But that's a whole nother video, a whole nother time. And I think fundamentally, in understanding that there are spiritual implications of debt, those spiritual implications firstly being that when you owe debt, you can't be in peace. When you owe debt also, you are in slavery. Please read the book of Kings, Elisha and the widow, and she says that her son's been in bondage and slavery over this debt. Whichever way you look at it, the moment you owe £1, £1, $1, £1 to anybody on this earth, there is an invincible cage that you can't see that surrounds you, that is prohibiting you from moving on this earth like the daughter of the Most High. It is a cage that puts a spirit of fear into you. It restricts your ability to actually grow wealth because if you're in debt, you can't be wealthy. Your cup isn't overflowing. In fact, you are in the Sahara Desert. Your cup is completely dry. And debt also prohibits you from actually reaching the land of milk and honey, prohibits you from being the landholder, prohibits you from being the master, prohibits you from owning the land. It prohibits you from so many things. And the purpose of debt is to keep you stuck. It keeps you stuck financially. It also keeps you stuck from you actually being able to fulfill your purpose. Money is not just a tool to enjoy luxuries. Yes, you won't be able to enjoy certain luxuries if you're in debt, but it's doing more than that. The money is restricting you in more ways than you can imagine. You can't help anyone else. You can't help the poor. You can't fulfill some of God's callings over your life when you are in debt. And this is exactly what the enemy wants you to be in. Debt is not cute. I do not believe in girl maths. Girl maths will have you in debt. The maths must add up. If you make 100, you must spend 99 or less. You must actually spend 80 because we keep 1/5 here. You must get good at making sure that the maths adds up. The world does these things that are so subtle, and you've got to recognize the subtlety of it because just like the serpent, they're not going to come out and say to you, we are going to make debt easy for you so that you can be stuck, so that you don't become that girl, so that you don't actually have the life that God wants you to do. That's not how the advert is going to be. That's not the way they're going to position it to you because you wouldn't touch it. You wouldn't touch it if it says, if you take this debt, you are now in prison. You just wouldn't do it. But the enemy doesn't work like that. It has to be subtle. I want to share with you exactly how I got out of debt. Firstly, I feel very, very fortunate to say my debt related to not frivolity, but studying. And I think, this is the bizarre thing. This is before I was fully in the word. I didn't fully look at the number. Let me explain why. In my head, by faith, it was 0. It was zero. Once I decided and I knew that debt wasn't a thing, I changed that number to zero. But if I recall, it was around 50 whole £1,000. Crazy. Absolutely crazy, especially considering where I am now. I just can't even believe it. But in my mind, it was zero because we moved by faith and I got that thing to zero and then started the increase. I want to share with you exactly how I did it because the practicality, there's a practical element of getting out of debt. I'm not a financial advisor, so this is how I got out of debt. And you can apply these principles to you. And they're not necessarily going to be what you want to hear, but it does absolutely work. Number one, you need to go inside. With all due respect, you need to go inside. If you are living the life of la-di-da-di-da-di-da-da, and you're in Mykonos, you're in Saint-Tropez, you're in Positano, you're in Capri, you're in Dubai, you're in Bodrum, with all due respect, you have no business being there. I took myself away from life's luxuries, and I promise you, ladies, I love luxury. I love the good things. But I said to myself, how can I have this student loan and live in the life of luxury? Close the door. So I realised I needed to be inside. Elisha and the widow, lock the door. The world doesn't want to tell you that, but you need to lock the door. And yes, it is going to be an ugly, hard season. You might see the girls are doing Bodrum. You might see the girls are buying the Gucci. You might see the girls are buying the Chanel. You might see the girls are buying the buildings, buying the cars. None of your business. This is why we mind our own business. It's none of your business. Your number one business now is getting that number that you have down to zero. Focus on the task at hand. The task at hand is you are not going to be in debt. I promise you, when you get out of debt, the rate at which you actually build wealth is going to be insane. I'm going to explain that further down later as we go through this chat. So I closed the doors. Just like Elisha said to the widow, like, close the doors. Most seasons require you to be outside, but being in debt requires you to be fully inside. And the key here is to realize it is for a season. I think sometimes we think that, oh my gosh, you might think the debt's so big. This is going to, no. It is for a season. And you have been given the debt so that you can win. I personally feel, and maybe because it's my personal circumstances, the reason that my money has multiplied in the way it has, and we thank you, God, is because I was in debt. I know the power of compounding. And I think this is really critical. If you go inside, you will learn how to budget. You will learn how to utilize your money so that it is always under. The second thing that I think that needs to happen for you to clear your debt, you need to have an idea of what you owe. You really need to know the numbers. You need to know the numbers. God is a God of order. God is a God of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you look, I've said this before, the book at Numbers, everything, there were 671 beams. There were 700 of this, 400 of this. You need to know how much you owe. And what I personally did, I started with the smallest amount that pertained to my student loans, the smallest amount, and just aggressively threw everything at it. You know, when Naaman, who was it, Hezekiah, that said to Naaman, I think it might have been Ezekiel, go and wash thyself 7 times. You keep on doing this until the miracle of clearing your debt happens. You keep on doing this until the miracle of clearing your debt happens. And that's exactly what I did. I would sometimes, we have the privilege in the UK of a student loans company. I would call them up and I'd be like, I want to pay £10, please. I want to pay £50. I want to pay £500. I want to pay £25. I would just be in, sometimes a week, I would make multiple payments. I would just be making payments because of the law of Naaman, that consistency. Consistency is going to get the miracle. You keep on making payments until it becomes zero. That's what I did. I don't even know, as crazy as it sounds, I don't even know how I got to zero. I don't know how I got to zero. I just kept on. Any bit of cash that I considered extra after the basics went that way. And I just kept on the consistency of that, not distracted, not turning to the left, not turning to the right, facing forward and running the race ahead. Because the word says this, because guess what? There are going to be situations you literally just need to face forward and run your race. If you have debt, you have to run the race. You have to be consistent. You have to finish and see it through and see that it is good. If you think about the book of Genesis, God made and he saw things were good. I committed to myself that I was going to see this thing to be good. Being good meaning zero. There comes a mindset with this. One of the things I want to say is, with debt, it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like this is a never-ending pool, and when do I get to zero? I need you to understand it is mindset. I had the faith that it was zero, so I therefore moved like it was zero. Genuinely in my head, the balance was zero. I knew God had already cleared it. I knew it didn't exist anymore. And by the power of my words, by the power of how I moved, I made sure that I didn't just pray, I actually did the works to make sure it was good. You have to make sure that it is good, and good is a balance of zero. Do not let anyone trick you into thinking that, oh my gosh, if you get halfway through, then you can come and celebrate. No, that's not good. Zero is good. Zero is where you have the party. You keep on going until you get to zero. I also think what enabled me to move forward is the fact that life is seasonal, and believe it or not, I alluded to this earlier. I celebrated the debt. I celebrated the debt because all things work out for the good of those who love God. Debt taught me the power of compounding. I don't know if you're in the US, I don't know how student loans work there, but over here, you pay interest. The interest is accruing. And me seeing how money multiplies so quickly, I knew about compounding before I had debt. I had the privilege of being around, having the knowledge of compounding, but actually seeing the compounding of debt made me realize that all things work out for your good. You getting that balance to zero, when it's working in the opposite direction, you understand how quickly money compounds, you are going to become a very wealthy woman. You are going to become a very wealthy woman because you have actually done compounding in reverse, which is the hardest thing ever. Because for every, let's say, £10 that you pay, you've actually only paid off £5. And if you manage to conquer compounding in reverse, working against compounding, and you prevail, I promise you, when you are using compounding to work in your own interest, you will be a wealthy woman because God is a multiplier. Compounding exists because of the Most High. And when you put that seed in the ground, when you learn investment, when you learn all of these things, you understand that actually this debt was meant for your good because you now have the tools to maintain any wealth that is actually given to you. I think one of the most important things in getting yourself out of debt is to never, ever, ever go back to debt. Money is fully spiritual. Debt is spiritual. Debt is an invisible cage that you can't see. You can't see the cage. You can't see the bondage. You can't see the trap, but it's all around you. It is all around you, prohibiting every single move that you make on earth. And it is so, so important on this earth. And I promise you, darlings, I have things that require money. Capital is never going to be funded via debt. It is never going to be funded by debt. Another thing that I've realised, as I will say, a businesswoman, I don't do any of those investors into, no, I do not want to owe anyone on this earth money. I rebuke that over my life, over your life. It is a spiritual thing. And I have unfortunately seen it whereby people get themselves and they think they're being smart, but they're forgetting the spiritual aspect of money. They get themselves these investors. The investors put these chains around them. Then the investor comes in and says, hold on a second, you're not paying us as fast as you should. This isn't working. So we're going to take your business away, because no matter who it is that you owe on this earth, you are going to be a slave. And I personally, I rebuke and reject being a slave on this earth. I'm a daughter of the Most High. The bondage is over. I've escaped the land of Egypt and I'm fully now in the land of milk and honey. So I think it's so important, if you do get out of debt, and when you do get out of debt, you understand it is a road. You know, Lot's wife, there's so many aspects of not going back. Not looking back means that you don't return to a land where you just came from. Do never, ever, ever on this earth feel tempted to return to the land of debt. You've left it. Don't look back. There's nothing there for you anymore. This is so, so important. And it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's for a business. Oh, I'm going to make loads of money out of the business. No debt for that. And I'm not even going to go into like debt for bags. That's bad girl maths. That's a level of, I wouldn't say stupidity. That's a level of the devil really doing a number on you. Because if you are taking out debt for handbags and shoes, the devil really is doing a good job. He's doing an excellent job. Because how are you in slavery over Chanel? That should never happen. Do let me know in the comments if there's anything that you would share or add that could help another woman in terms of getting out of debt. Money is fully spiritual. It is not to be joked with or played with. And it's one of those things you have to be very, very deliberate and conscious of how you behave and what the rules are. Because if you fail to obey God's commandments when it comes to money, you will actually just suffer on earth. And you'll be wondering, but hold on a second, you said I shall not lack nothing. Why am I in lack? The question is, did he follow the actual commandments? Did you obey the rules?